And hello, welcome to the Social Justice Forum. I am your host, Daren Jaime. We thank you for joining us. Now, if you ask the question, what is this show all about? We bring you a forum discussing and providing a deeper understanding of the issues and iniquities that so many communities face. Things such as systemic inequalities to pressing social problems. Our guests provide multiple perspectives and insights, helping us better understand and address these challenges. So we invite you to stay connected with us. The Social Justice Forum starts now. And welcome back. We stand at a pivotal moment in ongoing discussions about the state of our country's health care, as well as tax systems and the future of labor rights from the federal level, especially as they're being shaped under our current administration. Now today we explore the recently passed One Big Beautiful Bill and executive orders from the Trump administration, as well as the potential far-reaching effects on our health care system, tax policy, equitable hiring practices, and federal workers. How does this have an impact on large corporate relationships with independent contract workers across the nation? Well, join me now to discuss these developments and more. No stranger to our show, he's the founding partner of the Boyd Law Group. I'm proud to have him right across from me this time, Patrick Boyd.
Great to see you as always. Thank you.
As always, a pleasure having you, and I have to shake your hand because we don't get a chance. I'm always through the screen, and we're here.
That's right.
We're here. But the reason it is serious business now.
Certainly a lot of changes and important ones, yeah.
Yeah, so I want to get an opportunity to share a little bit about where we are. We know about the One Big Beautiful Bill passing. A lot of political rhetoric, both sides of the aisle. We've unpacked it, and we've run the numbers, and we've done some things ourselves to know that this does not look good. When you talk about employees, employers, both sides have a lot to lose. Yep. So from your perspective, when you saw the One Big Beautiful Bill, what was the first thing that stuck out to you?
I think the first place to look at it, maybe from a political perspective, is just the way that so much was packed into one bill.
Right.
I think the administration did that with the goal of not having too much bifurcation or separation of issues. So almost everybody had something they didn't agree to that was part of the bill, but they got it all through by having a lot of these, I would say, sometimes compromises and sometimes forces of things that people didn't want to agree to. So it was the whole bill had a lot of people sort of renouncing their interests in certain parts of it when it was passed. Mm-hmm. Nevertheless, it got through. Probably the most important financial impact when you look at it is I think, $1 trillion that they're anticipating will be impacted by the changes on healthcare. That's probably the first thing to talk about if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, let's get into it. I mean, healthcare is going to be that huge issue that millions of people are paying attention to. Yep. Employers are saying, yeah, we're going to be losing some employees when it comes to the issue of healthcare. Right. Employees on the other side are saying, I don't know about healthcare anymore.
Yeah.
Unpack it.
Yeah, so I mean, probably the first part is the social safety net and the benefits there. We're looking at about 17 million people that are likely to lose health care by virtue of the cuts to the practices for government-provided health care benefits, mostly for older or disabled workers. In general, the way the right would say it or look at it is they would say we're putting more requirements on people to receive the benefits. So you have to show you're looking for a job or you're absolutely disabled. I think the way the left would see it is that a lot of people that already had the benefits and were already vetted for the benefits are just going to automatically lose them, right? The practical implication is nevertheless that there are going to be millions without the care. And I think for the most part, it's going to be because the administrative hurdles to get the care are going to be more complicated than they were before. One of the reasons that's most interesting to challenge, and it's an infrastructure thing we won't have unpacked for a while, is to choose not to provide care and to require people to report more is to establish a bureaucracy that evaluates what people get or not. That bureaucracy can cost money. So it's quite possible that what you're saving in not providing the benefits, you're costing in trying to explore eligibility for benefits by creating this new sort of system to evaluate it. Ultimately, probably the greatest impact is going to be on the poor and rural areas, mm-hmm. where hospitals are only getting funding for treating those people with government benefits. And if those people don't get those benefits or don't know if they have them, they might not go to that hospital. Those hospitals have a small community that they serve, a small infrastructure that they support, and they're just surviving as it is, Daren. So they might just wind up closing altogether.
Yeah, so we're talking about $1 trillion in cuts
Yeah.
through Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. And then on top of that, we're looking at possibly 17 million Americans who will be affected when it comes to the issue of this. We haven't seen this in quite some time. You know, the word on the street is people are really, they're in limbo and also very concerned about their potential health outcomes.
Yeah. Perfectly said. I mean, being in limbo about whether you can have a doctor is
Right.
being terrified, right? Limbo is not a good place to be when you're talking about something like an essential need, like going to your doctor or getting your medication.
So the person who's home says, listen, what recourse is there? Is there, we know litigation is always a possibility. We know that you're the guy that we can talk to about this stuff. So once a bill like this passes, there's a lot of stuff that's in it that a lot of people have objection to. Where are there possible things that can be entered in, injunctions, anything? Somebody's saying, I'm looking for some hope somewhere along the line. So
when it comes to the healthcare, I think the truth is that it's just going to be having an individual fight over their eligibility for benefits and maybe learning the way that they have to fill out whatever new government form they need to show, look, I can't work, right? Or I'm too sick to work. That's why I'm on this benefit to start with. Or, the jobs that are available to me in this area aren't ones. Or frankly, if there's a simple job, I'm happy to do it, but please don't take away my doctor while I'm figuring out what I need, because I need to care for myself. I need to care for my family. I think, and we've talked about this before, this very aggressive move is politically terrifying, and there's not an accompanying support system to allow people to know how to integrate into the new role. So they're just lost and they're scared, and that's the biggest problem. Now, some of the other executive orders are sort of interesting in terms of whether or not they can be challenged or enjoined, and we'll get to that a little bit more as we go on. I think maybe the interesting other part of the big beautiful bill, though, if you want to stick to that, is this no tax on tips policy.
Yeah. So when we talk about no taxes on tips, that's part of the bill.
Yep.
We're in New York City, of course, and New York City, huge when it comes to tips.
Yep.
You've got those in the workforce that say, okay, how does this really affect me?
Yep.
When we look at no taxes on tips, you break that down.
Sure. So at this moment, the way the bill is written, $25,000 of income, if you get $25,000 in tips, right? You don't have to pay federal tax on that. You still may have to pay state tax, but no federal tax. The impact, though, Daren, is sort of limited, and one of the reasons for this is as follows. When you talk about service workers, and I didn't realize this until I really crunched the data, 37% of people who primarily get tips as part of their income aren't paying taxes anyways. They're so low income that they're not paying any taxes on their income to start with, meaning that this escape from taxes on tips isn't an escape. They were already being able to get that money free and clear because they weren't making enough to be taxed.
And most people didn't even know that off the bat.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And in addition, you do have to report the income. You just report it and then file for the deduction from your income, if you see what I'm saying. So they're figuring about 4 million Americans, and that's not a small number, right? You got your waitresses, people working in nail salons, hostesses, hosts, also people in barbershops, right? Those kind of taxed income people will get that benefit, which is great. But it's a very politically popular idea, probably because we've all worked in that economy, or most of us have had a job like that. It's still impacting a very small number of people, and only to the tune of 25,000, and only it's sunsetting in 2028. So very politically popular and smart for the administration. I don't know that it has the
depth
or breadth,
longevity, right?
Yeah, to really pack a punch.
Right.
You know, amazing how much politics and power they got out of it for so little delivery.
Because a lot of conversation was had, right?
Yeah.
A lot of conversation was had around it to make it seem as though this is something major that was going to happen.
Yeah.
But when you look at and crunch the numbers again, as you said, some of these people are not filing taxes already.
That's right.
Already. So
right.
it doesn't affect.
Right.
But like we do in the media, it sounds good.
Right. Sounds great. Right.
It sounds great.
And it no tax on tips. It sort of springs forth. It's got a nice little handle to it. It jumps in people's minds, and it's sold to that blue collar base that I think was part of Trump's success in the election.
Yeah. Talk about election. We've got a serious one happening here in New York City, of course, and things are beginning to heat up. We don't know how it's going to go, but we are following, and we're bringing you news. So make sure you stay right here on this station. We'll continue to give you all the latest, and we'll break down what they're saying and what they're not saying here on this show, and then some. But one of the candidates, of course, we know, Mr. Mondani, has a couple of proposals. But I do want to talk about the $30 by 30 minimum wage.
Yeah.
People are looking like, oh my God, $30 is a minimum wage. The reality is, for many people here in New York City, that would be great because of the cost of living.
Yeah.
And then you have other people on the side who say, listen, we're already right here at this number. We don't need to go any higher. But if someone is elected, there is a potential for a $30 minimum wage to at least be introduced.
Sure, and Mamdani has gotten so many interesting aspects of his platform. I think one of the interesting questions is going to be whether he can actually effectuate them, right? If he gets elected, right? But it's universal child care, right? It's rent freezing, and then it's this $30 minimum wage by 2030, right? In addition, municipal groceries, where groceries will be subsidized and lower cost, and free busing. I've just listened to him recently talk, and this was astonishing to me. Probably just because I don't think about it enough. I think the bus fare is $2.90 for a bus trip, and 1 in 5 New Yorkers struggle to make that payment at this point.
Well, if you ride down here, if you come down here to Fordham Road, you come right down the block, you will notice that many people are not paying their fare.
Yeah.
You're seeing people get on the back.
Yeah.
The bus driver's not making any, there's not even a stop sign anymore. It's like it's become common practice that they can't even collect the amount of fare they need to collect because of what's going on. So when you look at the things that are happening here, there's a lot of red flags and a lot of warning signs that are being lifted here, particularly in New York City. But then when you also look at the fact of where we are with regards to, waiters and waitresses and the amount of money they're making and that whole industry, and the fact of a $30, there's a lot of people who are applauding it.
Yeah,
saying
of course.
It's very necessary. But then you have a lot of employers on the other side saying, oh no.
How am I gonna make payroll?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's huge.
Yeah. No. Certainly. 2030 is coming pretty quick, and that would be a higher cost. I do think it depends a little bit on the borough, right? I think the restaurants in New York City probably are paying their waitresses, at least in Midtown and the hot spots, paying more than that already, right, in terms of tips and pay. But when you get to the outer boroughs, $30 is a lot of money to pay your team for the minimum wage out in the Bronx or Queens or other, sort of depending upon the neighborhood. The interesting thing about him, I think, and I'd be interested in your thoughts, is that he's a self-professed socialist Democrat. That's his political philosophy, inspired sort of by Bernie Sanders. And I think Bernie did some wonderful things and has been a sort of a leader in some respects. But that label is politically challenging, I think, for elections and politically challenging for certain people. I don't know how it's being received or how it's going to be received.
So I think the one thing that when you look at Mondani's campaign is that people are attracted to the fact that you sound new.
Yeah, just different.
This doesn't sound like the average, everyday politician.
Yeah.
He's got some ideas that some will say are far left, and you have others who say it's far right. You have the whole socialist understanding.
Yeah.
But it resonates with people who are looking for a change.
Yeah.
Right? When you look at New Yorkers, they don't want the status quo, right? You look at what's happening at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and there's a lot of corruption, there's a lot of crime, there's a lot of issues that we know that America's become embedded in.
Yeah.
And here in New York, we have a mayor who's gone through the same legal woes and the legal challenges and that. And New Yorkers, in a certain amount of way, want to look at a fresh face.
That's right.
And they're looking for a fresh voice.
That's right.
And he brings that.
That's right.
Now, whether or not he's able to carry that across the finish line, that's up for debate. We'll be here to report on that and let people know. But there is something that to be said for how a fresh voice is being carried and being received across the. I literally watched a couple of his speeches in places that he went to, and it looked like he was a celebrity, a rock star.
Oh, sure.
Like he had the crowd going. The people were amped, and you can tell that that's something that just the people want.
Yeah.
Not straight politics as you've been giving me, the political answer, the political pandering. I want to know, do I have a politician that actually resonates with me beyond sounding politically correct, for the right word,
Sure.
right? And that's what he brings to the table. Now the policies are why we're going to have to be here at the table having these conversations to say, listen, you know what, 30 for 30. Is this really gonna work? You know,
is it going to work? Do you have the power to make it happen? Because you have to have the support of Albany. I mean, right now he doesn't have full all-in support from the governor yet, right? He still has to bridge that gap. But I think what you said is tremendously true, and I think it's kind of consistent, as perverse as it might sound, to compare it to Trump in some ways. I heard the Center for the Political, I think his name is Mo Elathi, I think he's Center for Politics and Analysis in Georgetown, said that the one thing Trump had to do to be successful was make sure he smashed what was the regular in the nose once a month. As long as he challenged the status quo enough, he would have political support. And I think Mamdani has done that a little bit. He's challenged the norms in a way that gives us some optimism and just a view of something different, which might gather more political support than we think.
One thing that he's talking about and really, spoken to was also DEI, right? That goes back to Washington, D.C. When the Trump administration implemented, reducing DEI, and we're seeing universities kowtow, we're seeing people at all stages kowtow to making themselves politically correct and eliminating DEI because the potential to lose funding, the potential to not even the potential, people who actually have lost their jobs simply because of this. How do you see the rollout, particularly here, with governmental programs that really don't remove DEI?
So it's a great question, and with many of Trump's policies, this is not inconsistent, without a great answer yet, right? He gets the political splash immediately, and then we've got to wait to see how it's administered to later, right? But there were 3 different executive orders, all challenging DEI initiatives, funding, efforts, and training. And that challenge, just like the challenge to the healthcare we were talking about, has people worried. They can be, and the initiative has, some of the initiatives have been to assign the government to find places disproportionately leaning into DEI and to penalize them and to fine them. So they're shutting down offices, cutting jobs, and penalizing people who are more aggressively seeking to implement things like affirmative action or recruiting to harness a more diverse workforce, all those kind of things. Again, lots of people scared by this. I think ideologically, a lot of people challenged too, because it's awfully hard to sit back and find a person who says, let's see, diversity, equality. No, I don't want that, right? I don't think that's a concept that resonates with people. So they don't understand, and I don't know that I understand either the reason for the political messaging to be done that way or for the actions. But the follow-through is still something we're not completely clear on, for sure. And what it really comes down to is, right, the Supreme Court ruling on the affirmative action as to universities, right, saying that they're not allowed to make that sort of a definitive factor, that is the minority status, if you will, of an applicant, a factor in analyzing an application for admission. That concept, right, prohibiting that being a part of the analysis is sort of what's emboldening this new approach to law. I mean, and I understand the Supreme Court's ruling on the subject, and I don't think it's without import, and I don't think it's, but it's got so much nuance to it. And the Civil Rights Act was 1964. That's a long time ago, and we're still trying to administer to it effectively. So it's disappointing to have an administration that, even if it's just by political messaging, is in some ways challenging that initiative that's so important to our country and our history and our future, for that matter.
Well, you said it's a long time ago, and in fact, it could be argued it's a long time ago. So by 50 years later, 60 years later, when we look at what's happening right now, we see that a lot of what was being fought for then
Yes.
is the same fight that's being had now,
Absolutely.
which shouldn't be happening at all.
Agreed.
Right? And then you look at the fact of diversity, equity, inclusion. Diversity, equity, inclusion, the original target of this was supposed to be black, brown,
Yep.
but the reality is there's a lot more people,
Of course.
and black and brown are at the bottom of that category. Women are being adversely affected. And now a lot of people who are losing their jobs and seeing what's happening as a result of diversity, equity, and inclusion are now having a coming to, what I said, the coming to Jesus reckoning that, oh, this actually affects me.
Yeah.
And that, in part, is scaring a lot of people
Of course.
who really weren't scared at all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But when you find out, oh, I'm caught in the middle.
Yeah.
Now I haven't told. I didn't think it happened to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Right. Those are the reactions that people are having, but for blacks, Hispanics, those who've been in minority communities, the word on the street has been, we've been here before, and now people are starting to get a taste of it. But it's sad because when we're seeing these cuts, a lot of people are becoming affected, and this DEI is having a lasting impact. It is, we're talking about education,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Who gets to go to school?
Right.
How we go to school?
Yeah. Yeah.
so.
Yeah, and I think the worst part about it that I'm experiencing on the so last night I was mediating a race discrimination case, trying to resolve it, and the mediator was talking to us about whether we could resolve the matter or whether it would proceed to litigation, if you will. And her comment was that she thinks a jury pool, given the current administration, is going to be less sympathetic to diversity rights than it would have been before. She thinks the politics are, and I don't want to say sort of justifying racism or something, that's too strong a word and a phrase and a category, but I think the politics now are making people scared of addressing the mistakes that have been made and the problems, and more inclined to just go along with what other people say as opposed to take a stand as to things that were historically or more recently being put into a fine light and becoming important, you know?
Yeah.
If you felt like somebody was wrong because of their race, maybe 2 years ago you would have banged the table and said, we're not leaving this jury room, we've got to do this. And maybe now you're saying, you know what, it's not my battle and some people don't agree with this battle anyways, let it go.
Right.
So I think that it's getting to the heart and soul of the way people respond to the DEI concept in some unfortunate ways.
Yeah, and a lot to we could be here on this one all day. I think that people will play out in this fashion, that there'll be a lot of people who turn a blind eye until they are hit personally.
Yeah, that's right.
It doesn't affect then, but watching somebody else go through it, watching somebody else have that struggle,
Yeah.
I'm just watching. Like you said, I don't want to get involved.
Yeah,
I don't want to get.
I've got my own problems.
I got my own issues.
Right.
However, when it lands in your lap, then it becomes something else.
Yeah.
Running short on time, but I do want to get a couple things in here before we go. Number one, where do we see things going this year? I mean, we're halfway through the year. This big beautiful bill. Do we see a lot more litigation happening?
I think the litigation is going to continue because the Supreme Court ruling recently said that with respect to Trump's initiatives cutting government funding for the Department of Defense, Department of Veteran Affairs, all those kind of things, right? There was this argument that if one court stopped it, all the courts should stop it. The Supreme Court ruling said no, that's not the case, right? Each individual jurisdiction has to have a battle on this. What that means is that each time a cut in a government agency takes place or a restriction on collective bargaining rights takes place, each time that happens, individual courts have to fight it in all of the jurisdictions. And while they're fighting, for the most part, the cuts continue unabated, right? So for the most part, the cuts that were implemented while the authority to make those cuts was challenged, while it's being challenged, it's going to continue to happen. People are going to continue to lose their jobs. The government resources are going to continue to dwindle. We're going to have a smaller government, good and bad of that, right? And people are going to be, at least in my thinking, some of the most able government workers are going to get out because the security of the job, which is probably what they chose the job for, isn't there anymore. So why not just go to the private sector? And that's where I think the biggest problem is going to be. I think everybody can agree that there's excess in some aspects of the government, but I think everybody can also agree that we need the talented people there more than ever in the government. And I think that we're going to lose talent by virtue of just choosing to cut and shake up the stability of some of those departments.
Well, you know, making cuts is a part of the journey, right? But I think when you get to a place of making cuts, that you lose quality staff people.
Yeah.
That, I mean, I can't even tell you what it feels like to watch incapable people take the helm because these cuts have forced these things to happen.
Right.
And the word on the street is more coming.
That's
right?
absolutely right.
And there is a need to purge government. I think a lot of people are like, there is a need to purge government. How you go about purging some of these government jobs is absolutely incredulous to me.
That's right.
And how federal people people who worked in the federal jobs, and I've heard from people who said, listen, I was almost at the place of being able to get my pension.
Yeah.
Right. And now I can't even get that. I've given this much to the government, and now the government has gotten rid of me. It's very painful. So
Tough for them and tough to recruit the young person who might come in and fill that spot in the future who sees what's happening to them, right?
Right. How do people get in touch with you that are watching the show?
Anybody interested in talking to us about labor and employment law issues, it's www.theboydlawgroup.com. We have a website, and we're happy to talk to folks and see how we can help and be part of this dialogue or discussion. And please tune into shows like this. This is what's important to understand where your rights come from, and really not just your rights, but all of our rights as we start thinking about these things from a macro perspective.
Working on anything special coming up?
Interesting question without a good answer. I got a vacation coming up.
That's
special
good.
for me.
That's good. In this day and age, that's very good.
Yes. Yes.
Patrick, great to have you, bud.
Always a pleasure.
All right. Listen, Patrick Boyd, the Boyd Law Group with us. We enjoy our conversation. We get a lot of information, as we say, as much as we can. We bring him in, he talks to us, lets us know really the skinny and then also the fat, and what's behind the skinny and what's behind the fat. And we're thankful to Patrick for coming and being with us. Come to the end of our show today. Hope you enjoyed this week's discussion on the Social Justice Forum. Now, if you're rewatching this episode, catch the recablecast, I should say, right here, BronxNet.org. And if you want to join the conversation, present your point of view, well, you can do that. Visit our social media at BronxNet TV. We encourage you to join us next week. We continue to elevate the discussion, bring further awareness across the globe. I am your host, Daren Jaime, saying take care. God bless. We'll see you soon.